Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Atheist News Review. Now, as you can see, I'm not in my studio. I'm on a brief holiday in the West Country of the UK, and I'm in a lovely hotel overlooking Plymouth Hoe. So this is my hotel room. We had some technical hitches. It seems to be an unlucky weekend for us because yesterday Tersia's guest had a broken connection and she was left flying solo. And it was a fabulous show nonetheless. It had lots of views. Very interesting person who's escaped from the Shincheonji. So if you can catch that, I recommend it. Anyway, today we're reviewing last night's Global Atheist News with our excellent panel of opinionated people. And here they are. Hello, guys. Thank you for joining us. We've got Guy from Northern England. We've got Ed from Columbia, Canada. Esther from the Midlands of England. Tersia from South Africa. And Frank and Ty from the Bible Belt of the US of A. So we are pretty global. And here we go. The first item on the news that we want to address, we want your views on, is Afghanistan. It doesn't like to stay out of the headlines very long, does it? So, as you may remember, the Taliban enforced female face covering some couple of weeks ago, but oddly, the female television presenters went on being shown unveiled until this last week. And since then, they have complied with the Taliban's enforcement. And the comment that one of them made was, they're trying to erase women from society. So what do you think of that, guys?
Accurate. That's what they're trying to do. The goal, we were talking about this during the radio show today. The goal of religion isn't to add value to things, it's to devalue other things to make the religion more important or more valuable. And women are an easy target, minorities are an easy target. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's essentially Islam recognizing that there's not much to offer aside from devaluing or putting down other groups of people. And then hopefully the ones that can vote or rise or be the most violent get to the top and they were being in control. And by virtue of that, they have a benefit of maintaining this system. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's a religious cancel culture.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a patriarchal power grab, really. That's basically what it is. It's patriarchy. And this is a problem because it devalues, as you've said, the role and the dignity of women.
Yeah, it's a control freakery thing, isn't it? What do you think, ladies?
I just I appreciate the part of the world I find myself in at the moment, right? I can dress however I want, I can appear however I want, but you think about the people there. These people are they're not doing this because it's their choice. They're being forced into compliance. They're being forced. Their will is taken from them because some people, or rather, they feel like the religion gets to dictate how the women should dress. But then, do the same apply to the men? Does the same rule apply to men? I know that the Muslim religion, I think the men, I think it's their pants or trousers shouldn't reach the bottom of, I think, to the ground. I think that's the only thing I can think of. But these strict rules are placed on women. You know, you enforce these laws on the women. You get to dictate who they can go out with. Women can't even go out on their own. They've got to have a male chaperone, male. I mean, what exactly are they planning to, what kind of future are they planning for the country? In 10 years, in 20 years, what kind of country would you have? The more you suppress people, the more, I mean, that cannot help a society, I don't think.
Especially as we know that the more equal women become, or even the more powerful they become, the better the society is.
Mhm.
What would you say to that, Tersia?
The thing that boggles my mind is, what is the psychology behind this? Why is it so deeply seated in religions, to especially the monotheistic religion? Why is it so deeply seated in the history of those religions to demean women? Because if you look historically, if you look at the role that female priestesses played in the ancient religions of the Greeks, the female goddesses, and you look at the, I was watching a documentary about the Celts and the ancient Germanic tribes, and Tacitus wrote about them as a criticism that they value the opinion of their women, and women play an important role in society. So what is it about the monotheistic religions that the role of women is so demeaned? What is the psychology behind that? And I think that is something that research has to be done on that, because it seems to be that it wasn't always like that. If we go back to our primitive past, 2,000 years or so ago, or even the older religions, the non-monotheistic religions, women were important.
Right.
And what went wrong? What's the psychology? Is it because the God figure is male, and you have to keep you have to build up the male God figure?
You put men on a pedestal.
Yeah. Something needs to be, some research needs to be done into the roots of this, obviously. But I'm glad you mentioned the Greek female.
There's probably quite a bit out there.
Yeah,
I think the Bible, the Holy Bible, that's where, I mean, it may have started well before then, but the one-sidedness, almost anti-woman aspect of religion is, I think, rooted in the Bible.
Yep.
Except that it's even worse in Islam. So.
Yeah. I would say the misogyny.
Well, Islam came along later and has made it worse. But I think the roots of it are biblical.
I would say misogyny existed before the Bible, and all the Bible did was enhance it and use it as a tool to gain power.
Codify it.
But I definitely see a link in the monotheistic religion. So if you think about Judaism, which I'm not an expert, but I suspect that Judaism is definitely one of the oldest monotheistic religions. And in Judaism, women are subjugated, although there are women, female heroes like Esther and Deborah and so forth. But then in the New Testament, women, it becomes worse.
It's bad in the Old Testament too. Those are even good heroes.
And then the Muslims, Muhammad came, and he just took it one step further. So from the very first purely monotheistic religion, formalized in Judaism, it was women are substandard citizens, and they don't have the same value. And then Christianity came and took it one step up, and the Muslims just came and took it one notch further. That's something that I find very interesting.
The one hero I would recommend anyone pay attention to in the Old Testament is Eve, because she's the one who's like, whoa, this system sucks and apples are awesome. I got to find Adam. Snakes can talk. We got to figure this out. Oh, thank you for the birth of science. Thank you for everything. So, like,
should also point out that Sikhism isn't monotheistic. It's but they definitely are patriarchal.
I'm so glad that you introduced the Greek goddesses, because my favorite god is Cloacina. And do you know what her job was? She kept the sewers of Rome flowing.
It had to be a woman. Why was that a woman's job?
It's a responsible job.
It's a dirty job.
Staying with the Taliban. As you may remember, a couple of weeks ago, there's some sort of, I don't know, rumor escaped that the girls' schools, secondary schools, were going to be open. And a load of girls went to school, and then before lessons started, they were all sent home again because the Taliban leaders had got their wires crossed and they weren't ready for this to happen yet. Now, more recently, secret girls' schools have been set up in hiding places where the female teachers are carrying on teaching secondary school girls, and one of them has said, this has got to be done. Even if they arrest me and beat me, it's worth it. So, your responses to that, please.
How brave can one person be?
Absolutely.
I mean, against all odds, some people still, I mean, people like that I find are courageous. Yeah. I look at people like that and I say, these are just very unique people, because in the face of opposition, in the face of all the threats around them, they still recognize that these women need an education. These children need this education. I mean, it will only help the society in return. It's a cycle. If you keep these girls uneducated, it only just goes back. It somehow has a way that it affects the society negatively. But if you educate the girl child, I think it helps in the long run, in my opinion. So kudos. And gosh, can you imagine being one of these people having to hide just to get an education?
Wouldn't it be wonderful if these brave women actually had some sort of influence over the Taliban? If it gains, traction, this sort of campaigning might get them to change their minds. Can we hope?
I don't think so.
If it's something I learned about Afghanistan, it's that even after 20 years of American war, with all of our machinery, we did not stop the most determined minds do what they were planning on doing. And that doesn't just apply to the Taliban, it also applies to the women that live in that country too. And so I think what the Taliban are going to soon find out is that their use of force and coercion on their own people is going to lead to the same things that we discovered when we were at war with them, that they have spirits that don't get broken uniformly, easily, or ultimately not at all. And I continue to support this fighting that they're doing for education and seek refuge wherever they can. They have our support.
Yeah, it's just a shame that you've got to fight to get educated. Guy had a communication breakdown and he's back with us. Yeah. And I know he said before we started that he had connectivity problems. Didn't you, Guy? Welcome back. So, moving now to Nigeria. This is of your interest in your historic neck of the woods, Esther. In Bauchi, I think that's northern Nigeria, in probably the Islamic area. Because it's a divided country, isn't it? South is mostly Christian, north is mostly Muslim.
Yes.
So up there in the northern part, a Christian girl narrowly escaped being lynched for some, I don't know, offensive to Islam reason, genuine or not, it doesn't seem to matter very much. Anyway, she escaped being lynched, but the youth rampaged in response to this and went around breaking the windows and attacking the homes of Christians. How lovely is that?
This has, in my opinion, it's been an ongoing problem. The population, for the last few years, it's been neck and neck between Christians and Muslims. Going back in 2017, the population of Christians was about 50% and 48% Muslims. But now it looks like the Muslims are now about 50% and the Christians about 49%. So it's always been a huge battle between both religions, and it only takes something very, very minute to trigger the Christians. They don't they're not as violent, they're not as they're not out there burning things or killing people, but it just the smallest of things just triggers these people, and before you know it, they're out there on a rampage and causing so much mayhem. Religion has done a lot of damage, in my opinion. If I really could say what I want to say, I feel like it's time that as a country they need to start to reassess some of the laws and some of the some of the ethics and the things that guides the country as a whole. And when you have this constant battle between these two religions, in my opinion, it's just it's a recipe for disaster. And it's not going to stop anytime soon.
No,
if something's not done.
I'm not going to let you off the hook just yet, because also in northern Nigeria, in an area known as Borno
State,
Boko Haram, which translates as, I think, Western education or Western culture is forbidden. Haram means forbidden. And what has happened there is they've got terrorists who run around on motorcycles with guns, and they've run amok, and so far they've killed 60 farmers in a mass attack. And there's really no way we can imagine how to tackle this. I'm at a loss. What about you?
I have a hypothesis, but it's not a quick solution. When we have these types of discussions around my dinner table, I always say the only solution that I can see is a long-term solution, and it involves us going back to a classical education and learning philosophy, learning basic logic and reasoning, and reinforcing that in our education system, and teaching basic history, teaching about what is good for society and what has had bad results, because we don't teach history. We have dumbed down our societies. It's even happened in advanced first world countries like the United States, maybe even to a lesser extent in the UK. There's no value upon listening to alternative viewpoints. I read an article not too long ago where thousands of people would go to listen to Robert Louis Ingersoll. It was seen as entertainment. Regular people, farmers, non-intellectuals would go and stand in the sun or in the cold and listen to Robert Ingersoll debating or reasoning for 2 hours.
Yes.
We have dumbed down our children to such an extent that they have an attention span of 5 minutes. And that makes them extremely vulnerable to religious indoctrination, because it's a 5-minute solution. I'm right, you're wrong. Throw it off.
Yes, simple answer.
I wonder, the focus, and I think this, mirrors what you're saying, is that the focus is really on pedagogical teaching, right? It's just stating the facts, and these are the facts, and remember this, whereas rather than teaching people what to think, it should be how to think. And so that's teaching critical thinking skills, like you said, and how to evaluate information, how to getting that that toolkit of thinking that, you know, because reason is not innate, it's a skill. And if you don't first learn it and then don't further practice it, you know, like Hume said, reason is the slave of passion. If you don't have reasoning skills, passion is what rules the day. And you see that in mob rule and mob justice and all the rest of it throughout the world, and in particular on social media platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you mentioned Robert Ingersoll, because he was such a great speaker. There's even at least one actor who goes around being him. He adopts the dress, the top hat, or whatever they wore back in those days, and he reads what he's memorized, and he goes through the actual speeches that were delivered. And yeah, Frank, I think you may have heard of him. He's in your.
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard about that fellow, but I would sure like to hear him perform. But if you look over my shoulder here, I've got two busts up there, and one of them is Thomas Paine, and the other one is Robert G. Ingersoll.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a high regard for Ingersoll, and it's true what Tersia was saying about people would pay $1, which back in the late 1800s was a lot of money, and there was no air conditioning, no audio system, and they'd pack in shoulder to shoulder and listen to Robert G. Ingersoll for hours. And the message of that is, or the interesting piece of it is, that, you know, back at the turn of the century, before the last one, there were way more free thinkers in America or in the world than there are today.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was post-Enlightenment, right?
Can I just quickly add here that this is an ongoing problem when it comes to the Boko Haram, because some people have said, okay, they give up fighting for Boko Haram. They've come forward and said, we recognize we have done something evil and we don't want to be part of the Boko Haram. So how do you reform these people? How do you get them to normalize back into society? Because these people don't value human life. They don't value, it's us versus them. If you're not part of us, then your life is not worthwhile. And how do you prevent these people from going back to this Boko Haram? So what the Nigerian government was doing, they started paying these reformed, well, I don't know if they're reformed, but these people who have left Boko Haram, they started paying them money as incentive to, I don't know, maybe to better their life or something. They started paying them. And people felt like, how are you sure that these people have indeed left Boko Haram and you're paying them? At one point, this was the conversation on the table, that maybe to send these people to different countries to go learn an education. So maybe send them to the US, maybe send them to the UK or something, and get them to go learn. And people said, how can you waste government money? So that's another conversation. I feel like, okay, so what's the hope for these people? If these people are saying we don't want to fight with Boko Haram anymore, but we've been part of this group, and now we, so what are we offering these people? So I think it's such a vicious cycle. It just goes round and round. It's something.
I was going to say, sorry, Tersia. I was just going to, because I brought Guy back in. He's dropped out again. I was just going to say that it's difficult, as we have a system in the UK in which we try to deprogram criminals who have acted on some sort of religious motivation, and paying them isn't going to work. And trying to brainwash them backwards is not reliable either. I know Guy would like to say something about this, because we've had incidents where released criminals that were imprisoned for some religious crime have simply gone and done it again, despite being attempted to be reprogrammed. Guy, what can you tell us about that? Oh, I think he's frozen.
Yeah, I'm back now, I think. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Yes. So I didn't get all that you said, but you're talking about the problem of how to rehabilitate extremists. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an art, and there is a lot of dispute over the Prevent program and the other programs that the government runs, not only for Islamic extremists, but also for right-wing extremists. And in fact, right now, we seem to have more right-wing nutcases rampaging around than we do have actually Islamic ones, strangely enough.
You know, and thanks, Tyrone, for that. I don't know if you guys have heard of Socratic examination. Well, you probably heard of that, but street epistemology as a means of engaging people who have particular beliefs and having them actually self-examine so that you're not deprogramming, reprogramming. You're just allowing that person to actually discover how they came to believe what they do, and then help them develop, those analytic tools in order to better evaluate how they got there and the information that they use to develop their beliefs.
Right. And I'd say if briefly, if there was anything that would be instilled through SC, would be the appreciation of I don't know as a conclusion, or at least even a temporary conclusion, as a way to say, hey, I actually don't know if this is the right way of going forward.
Yes,
I'm going to wait until I have a better criteria until I come to a more permanent conclusion. But at least until then, I'm reducing my confidence that what I'm doing right now is the right way to do things, or what I've done back in the past was the right way to do things. So very useful.
I like to hope that the shows that Tersia and I do, where we interview people who have gone through these stages of escaping, tunneling out, or whatever they had to do, I like to think that they might help to open some people's eyes by showing, that they're not alone. That it happens.
No, you guys are awesome.
I'm just going to leave this here. I won't make this long, but I will post a link. There was a podcast about 10 years ago, Reasonable Doubts. I think I've mentioned it before. And in one of the programs, there was a philosophy professor who had a program in United States prisons where he worked with some of the most hardened career criminals, and I'm talking murderers, people who they were in the high security sections of the prison. And what he did with them was philosophy. He trained them in basic philosophy and logic, and the outcomes were so much better, actually measurably better than many of the other prison reform programs. And that is the type of thing that needs to happen. But before we can get to that point, we need also to address things like political inequality or economical inequality, and who has the political power and what do they want to do with it. And that feeds into what Esther said, because just like in South Africa, Nigeria is a very, as far as I know, it's a very unequal society. And when you have unequal societies where many people are really struggling just to make ends meet, then a savior figure is so convenient, and it makes you feel that you belong somewhere and you have purpose. And then it's very easy to submit to the baser instincts. And then we have to take into account that Africa has a very dark history. And the latest scientific research has shown that a child who's exposed to only one violent event, just seeing it, it literally changes the structure of his brain. and how many children before the age of 12 have been exposed to gross abuse, not even sometimes themselves, but just witnessing a father beating a mother. Much of those social ills are because of the difficulties of just putting bread on the table. And those things also need to be addressed. I think it's important conversation that needs to be had. The true humanist values of why are we doing what we're doing, and is it still working?
Well, it seems to me that paying them to behave is tantamount to a bribe. And for that reason, it's not going to be very effective from the outset. No. Anyway, Guy keeps popping in and out. I'll bring him back again.
So they call it the wages of sin, I guess.
Yes. So I'm going to take us to America now, because there is a candidate that Trump has endorsed. She's applying for the Senate of, was it? What's the name of the state that's up and amongst the lakes? The
Michigan?
That's the one, Michigan. She's applying, she's standing as a candidate for the Senate of Michigan, I believe. And she appeared on a Christian podcast, a video podcast, and she was heard to say that she would vote to ban all contraceptives.
Oh, John, it gets worse than that. I have to quote some of her other beautiful sayings. She also said that she would like to bring back blasphemy laws. So get ready. I don't know if the women will have to be covered up in the Catholic religion. So blasphemy laws she wants to bring back. She also said society today is abnormal, and Western society is built on Christian values, and we have to return to God's moral order.
Yes.
So, yes, blasphemy laws. She wants to bring back blasphemy laws. So, Captain Higgs and Frank, get ready to guard your tongues.
Well, you know,
I recommend everyone to watch that video of her being interviewed on the Catholic radio show.
Yeah.
Because it's every sentence is so horrifying. It's worth watching.
Yeah. Is it on? Where is that video found? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I did a clip of it in the Global Atheist News tonight.
Was there?
I should let you know that it was only in 1983 that the blasphemy laws were repealed in Canada. So
yeah, and I'm ashamed to say more recently than that in the UK. But I will put a link to this interview because it's truly a horror movie. You want to watch it from that point of view.
Well, if you could find that video and post it later, I want to watch the video.
Yeah,
I'm unaware of other than it was an item in the news that you gave. I hadn't heard anything about it.
You know that there's one unfortunate side effect of platforming people like that is that every time that name is mentioned, it gets passed on, and people tend not to accurately associate what the message is. So sometimes you just hear that name over and over and over again, and people all of a sudden say, "Oh, that must be a really popular candidate or something." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm afraid so.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Something that needs. When we spoke about the Taliban, what that lady said, I mean, the only thing that basically the Taliban adds to their rules is the face covering for women, in effect. And what is striking also is that this is a woman wanting to subjugate other women. And how can one begin to make changes in society if there are women who are willing to say that contraceptives should be banned? That is, I don't know, Esther. I never understand what to make of a woman who's fine with women being subjugated.
Well, it's all part and parcel of delusion, isn't it? I mean, and it has to be remembered too that, you know, Christians are on the decline in both Canada and in America. So, you know, yeah, maybe she's really hardcore Christian and this is what she believes, but she's really appealing to a smaller and smaller demographic. You know, as the rise of nuns and persons of other more tolerant faiths, like, you know, I mean, there's plenty of them. It's easy to hear that sort of extreme voice as the one yelling above the din, you know, trying to freak everyone out, which is, of course, the effect of, again, publicity. And there's no such thing as bad publicity, clearly.
I want to thank Ty, who's had to leave us. He said at the beginning, he told me that he only had a limited amount of time to join us today. But
Dred, I just want to say something. It's true that those people are in the minority, but in certain political systems, for example, the one in the United States, if we just look at gun laws, and well, even abortion laws, the political system gives a lot of power to those screaming voices who are in fact in the minority. And to me, that's the scary part, because I'm sure that if you were to walk to every single person 18 and above Afghanistan, and you would say to them, what kind of a world would you prefer to live in? That they would definitely say they would prefer not to be living under the Taliban if they knew that they could speak out and be safe. But, and for example, I happen to know that something like 80% of United States citizens want stricter gun laws and gun safety laws. But because of the way that the political system is structured, the minority actually dictates what happens. And that's why those minority voices are scary.
We need better democracy, don't we? It's not working very well in lots of Western countries. Anyway, staying with the US, you know, all of this horrible revelation about Catholic sex abuse that's been going on for several years now, and the Southern Baptists have more or less escaped unscathed. But a recent report has revealed that they had lots of sex abuse going on and kept it covered up, and even claimed that they couldn't keep a record of it whilst secretly keeping a record of it. Who's surprised?
A record that is now out of the closet.
Yes.
Same thing with I've learned recently about the Amish. You know, a lot is coming, you know, because they've essentially secluded themselves so that there is absolutely no eyes even on them. And if one of their own goes out into the world, they're completely shunned and you know, there's no records of child abuse because, of course, they don't subscribe to participating in society. So these things are essentially all hiding, you know, in plain sight, right? So, yeah, I don't think there's I can't think of anyone religion aside from Pastafarianism where you know, at some level sex abuse and child abuse is not a sanctioned thing. I think it's pretty regular all the way around.
Yeah.
Great. So
moving on, Iran. Oddly, to my way of thinking, Instagram and several other social media, you know, Instagram is the picture-based social media site, is available in Iran, but it's censored. So they don't permit some of the platforms within the Instagram site. And apparently, Instagram moderators, you know, the armies of moderators trying to keep these sites relatively clean from abuse and foul language and such like. Apparently, they've been offered bribes by, we don't know who in Iran, but There are leaders in Iran that object to some of the Instagram material, and the moderators have been bribed to take those accounts down. This is again a case of who's surprised, isn't it?
Not surprised.
How did they get hold of the moderators? I thought they were all bots.
No, they're not all bots, because bots can handle stuff, but also bots are easy to get past. You can do stuff that bots can't capture, basically. So there are moderators.
There might be algorithms that alert you to stuff, and then moderators kind of then dip in to do the further analysis and evaluation.
That's right.
Well, Esther, you should find out how to contact those moderators. Maybe there are some human ones at YouTube that you can contact about your
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. You went fuzzy.
I said you should try to ask the people in Iran how to contact the real people moderators. Maybe there are some of them at YouTube that you can get hold of to talk about your monetization.
It's crazy, and you have to ask the question: what exactly are they trying to? If they're offering bribes, why are they offering these bribes? Why are they trying to remove these words in these accounts? What exactly could it be? Something that could bring some form of damage to their religion or their their powers? Could it be something? So you have to ask why.
And does the same happen?
Usually when people are paying bribes, it's usually something they're trying to, something going on that they don't want people to know about.
Yeah. So you'll be pleased to hear that after all this abuse and murder and all the atrocities that we've been talking about so far, we now come to the funny news. And there's a Christian prophetess by the name of Kat Kerr, who has a video channel, or she was interviewed, and she was asked to say what happens to babies when they die. We talked about this a bit last week, didn't we? Because of the
limbo.
Exactly. Yeah. And what she did, Kat Kerr, prophetess, self-proclaimed, went on this sort of lyrical jaunt about how the babies are met by Jesus personally. First, because they're young, they get the priority, and then they get to play with the animals. And Jesus puts the babies in a kangaroo's pouch. It's all ludicrous, but lovely. It's a sort of.
I'm glad she's done this, and I'll tell you why. She makes an outstanding argument that the best way to save souls for eternity is to abort them.
Yes.
Right? I mean, think about it.
That's right. Well, they get personal life.
Yeah. If it's your biggest concern is to save souls for eternity, then you should be pro-abortion.
Yeah. And then they get to play with Jesus and a kangaroo. Yep. Yeah.
And they go directly into the pouch. They can bypass the system. They can go directly into the pouch. They don't even have to be met by anybody. They can just go. Well, maybe I can also proclaim that we've had a miracle in our household. My daughter had something happen to her. I don't know what. She bought a hamster. So she bought a dwarf hamster. On impulse, 100%. She actually wants a dog, but she can't keep a dog in her flat at university. So she bought a hamster. And as far as she knew, this hamster was actually, according to the pet store owner, the hamster was, what do you spay hamsters? I don't know. But on the fourth day of owning this hamster that we've subsequently dubbed Virgin Mary, I now have 7 baby hamsters.
It's a miracle.
Immaculately conceived. They are the most hideous things. They look like jelly beans. But so I mean, if the prophetess Kath can have her hypothesis about babies, then I have the Virgin Mary hamster with 7 immaculately conceived baby hamsters who are not in any form of pouch, although I don't know, maybe my daughter can get some money for them. But yeah, that's about the only comment I can make to that whole story about the pouches and the babies and baby Jesus. And
it's going to be difficult to top that, isn't it? But I love the way she made heaven sound like some sort of kids' theme park. Now,
she has made some very ridiculous claims, hasn't she, Kaka?
Yes, she has. Yes, we love her for it. Yes, anything that makes religion look ridiculous, I'm on that side. So, the final item we're going to do is on the Argentinian Maradona football hero who died a couple of years ago. But one of the airlines in Argentina has dedicated one of their jumbo jets or passenger carrying aircraft to the memory of him. And it's daubed with his name, his pictures of him doing his hand of God when he beat England in the 1960? No, not 1984, whenever that was. And passengers, they have a dreamlike flight where they can be in the presence of what do you call those virtual icons? A 3-dimensional hologram, one of those of Maradona himself, and they can, in the cabin of this aircraft, they can actually send a message to Maradona in heaven. Who wants to go on that flight?
Oh my goodness. It's like right Santa Claus, right? For your wish list?
Yes. Yeah. Well, there you are, folks. We've just come to slightly over our time, our allocated time. And Guy's been dodging in and out like a yo-yo.
Well, I've got a parting joke if you guys want to hear one.
Yeah, sure.
So aliens come to visit the Earth, and the leaders and religious leaders, they all gather to converse with these aliens. And then it's the Pope's turn. And he says, do you know our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? And the alien says, oh, Jesus, yeah, JC, yeah, he's a great guy. He comes to our planet twice a year. And the Pope says, twice a year? We've been waiting 2,000 years and he hasn't shown up yet. And this alien says, well, I see you're getting upset. Well, maybe he didn't like your chocolate. And the Pope says, incredulous, chocolate? What's chocolate got to do with it? And the alien says, well, every time when he visits, we give him a big box of chocolates. Why? What did you guys do?
That's a great way to end. Thanks for that.
We definitely should have seen that coming. But
yeah.
Say goodbye, everyone.
All right. Amen.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
See.